Hello. I had to change up my music. Well, welcome to another episode of Mondays with Miko. I hope you guys are enjoying your Monday, trying to stay out of the heat as much as you possibly can. There's heat everywhere, right? It's just crazy around here. So speaking from a true Jersey girl, right? But I love the heat. To tell you the truth, here, let me adjust some of my lighting. Hold on. All right, there we go. There we go. All right. So I am so excited to be here with you again on another episode of Mondays with Miko. And if you guys are watching on replay, I thank you so much for your continued support. It's like, when I'm out there, sometimes I may not pick up your face, but I get your names. So I'm trying to put faces with names. And it's so funny because, when I meet folks, they say, "Oh yeah, I watch Mondays with Miko." And then I'm like, okay, what's your name? So I connect with a lot of people via their names. So just wanted to again thank you all. And this weekend I was out at a back to school bash at the Tabernacle Baptist Church in Marion. And the Racial Justice Network was having an event as well. So shout out to all of you guys that I connected with on this past weekend. Had just a fabulous time, you know, just connecting on things that we can do to support our county. So really, really looking forward to getting to know all of you more. And if you're watching again on the show, welcome back. So hey, look, guys, we've got 99 days. So my topics today, just go over my topics today. The main thing I want to cover is the it's called the Inflation Reduction Act, but it's like portions of the Build Back Better plan. And if you remember, when the Build Back Better plan came out last year, I was kind of excited, thinking, finally, Democrats going to use their power and we're going to get some things for regular people. But hey, it didn't happen. But there was a deal struck. So we're going to talk about that deal and what's in that deal and what it means from what I can understand to you and me. But we now have 99 days before the general election. And remember, in South Carolina, there are you have to register 30 days before the election. So it is now time for us to be thinking about whether if we move to a new state or we move to a new address. You need to go ahead on to scvotes.org and change your address. Or if you are not registered, go ahead and register. It's time to register to vote. And let me tell you, because there's been some changes in terms of how elections are run in South Carolina that will go into effect for the first time this election. There will be 2 Saturday in-person votes leading up to the general election. 2. So your girl's going to be out there, right? We're going to be out there. We're going to be having events. We're going to be, just encouraging people, letting everybody know that it's time to vote. And by law now, there's 2 Saturday votes. All right. And if you can and will please, we're going to need lots and lots of volunteers in order to get the word out in the county, that the way we need to get the word out in order to get people to the polls. We're going to need help getting our seniors. People are going to need help getting rides to vote. This is so important. So if you can, I'm asking folks to sign up by simply texting change to 843-517-7100, and it's just right down there. And then you can do that at any point. And then when you text change, then you will be added to my text list. I will let you know when we have events, when we need volunteers. And also, I'm working on getting more stipends. So, all this work we've been doing all this time, we've kind of been doing it, and we haven't had, funding in order to give people stipends, but that's changing. I'm working hard on that. So, because your time is valuable, your time is very, very valuable. I can't say it's a lot of money, but it's going to cover the gas to get you there. And we always feed you, right? So, again, 99 days left to register people to vote. It's very, very important. scvotes.org. And if you want to be somebody that helps me register folks to vote who need to do it on paper, I'll be happy to bring you some voter registration forms. Just hit your girl up. I'll drop off some voter registration forms for you, and then we will be picking them up on a rotating basis. Not a problem. We can use that help as well. So, interestingly enough, hey, if you're here, I love if you could just drop and tell me that you're here. And if you're watching on replay, again, I thank you so much for joining on replay. I dropped a link in the comments. So if you're watching on YouTube or on a couple of Facebook pages, so Friends of Miko Pickett or on Miko Pickett Activist Speaker, I dropped a link to a YouTube in which it's just a summary. Ari Melber from MSNBC, he broke down the January 6th thing from a timeline perspective like I have not seen anybody else do yet. Ari Melber is a journalist, but he's also an attorney. So this dude knows what he's talking about, right? So I'm not going to talk about the January 6th subcommittee today on this Mondays with Miko. I will be back. Hello, Angel. Good to see you. Hi, friend. I will be back to talk about it. But if you want to just get caught up, go watch that. Watch that YouTube. Or if you have it on DVR, definitely check him out and follow him, because to me, he's my new Rachel. He's breaking it down. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about, or me, you and I, and we're learning together. So if you have any questions, drop your questions. If you have any feedback, and I'm going to just stay on the lookout for what's going on with this new Inflation Reduction Act. So the inflation of 2022. So the Inflation Reduction Act is a scaled down version of Build Back Better. And there's three key things that jump out to me let me go ahead and remove that banner. Hold on. That jump out to me on this Inflation Reduction Act. Now, the act itself was 725 pages. So I perused it. I looked through it. And then I looked at some summaries that some other folks have done. And then now I'm bringing it to you. Okay. But it's 725 pages. It's a lot, right? So there's three things. There's three main components of this Inflation Reduction Act. First is around economic. Second is healthcare. And third is climate, right? So economic, healthcare, and climate. Because if you follow the news, you can see, there's some folks that are quite upset. And I'm going to tell you why they're upset in a little bit. All right. And it's interesting how Republicans tend to get upset whenever there's something that's going to help regular people. If you see the Republicans getting super, super upset over something, that's when we need to pay attention. Even when it seems like, this is politics, this is so confusing, it's legal mumbo jumbo and finance stuff, that's when we need to say time out. What are they talking about, right? So economic, the first thing was economic. So there's a couple things that they're talking about doing on the economic side of the house. One is IRS reforms. So IRS reforms, and there's, I don't know, 50, 60 pages on this. But here's the interesting thing is I saw in there that they want to create a new IRS system for e-file direct. I guess when we think we're e-filing, we may not actually be e-filing, right? There's got to be some other steps in there, and they put a whole bunch of money towards that. And the thinking, from what I can read, is that they're raising money because we're not collecting the money that people owe. So then that made me sit back and think, right? I'm like, who? Let me not make a one IRS tax payment, and they're coming for us. So they're and it's interesting that there's some people, I guess, they don't pay taxes. And so our government saying, let's put money into the system so that we could collect the money from the people that owe us, right? And that makes sense, right? Because if you broke and other people owe you money, then get your money. You could be back on the come up. So I thought that was pretty interesting. The second thing is taxes on the rich and the corporation. The next slide I'm going to have is going to talk about these numbers, and we can be desensitized to the numbers when you're talking about billions and billions of dollars. But there's a couple things that we need not to get tripped up in. Like, let's not believe the hype. Um, when it says taxes, yes, they are new taxes, but nobody who makes less than $400,000 will receive any of these new taxes. And also, if you're a corporation, so like my husband and I, we own a couple of corporations. We started a couple of corporations. He's the CEO, or I'm the CEO, depending on the corporation. If your corporation makes less than $1 billion or has revenue less than $1 billion, you're not going to be affected by these taxes. So if you remember, in the Build Back Better plan, or really just even the Democratic platform, they talk about taxing the rich. If the rich paid more, then we would get, it would be more fair. And so when you think about and they are fine, right? If you got $400,000, hey, big ups. You got a big house. You probably got boats and stuff like that. That's awesome. I'm coming for those numbers, right? I, I'm coming for those numbers, and it's great, but you should be paying your fair share. So they'll be okay. And in terms of the corporations, remember under Trump, those corporations, they've been just sitting back, fat and happy, paying their CEOs millions and millions and millions upon millions of dollars, and not and then there's this huge gap between what workers pay and what the CEOs get. So you know what? Good for you. Good for you for coming from 'em, okay? So but I just wanted to be clear, because you probably will hear some talking points from people saying, "Oh, they're taxing us." They'll say it's a bad time to be taxing Americans. They ain't taxing Americans. They're taxing the rich and the corporations who absolutely can afford it. All right. So, and then we'll talk about healthcare and we'll talk about climate. But let's just go ahead and break down some of these numbers. And again, I know it's kind of nuts to be looking at numbers like this, but let me just break it down a little bit, right? So basically, what they're saying is $739 billion is going to be raised, and then they're going to invest 433 billion, right? So earlier I said how they're going to raise that money. They're going to add a 15% corporate minimum tax. The prescription drug pricing reform. Oh my goodness. There's hundred of the 725 pages. There is hundreds of pages talking about this prescription drug pricing reform plan, where they're going to be allowing Medicare. I think I got a slide on that. Yeah, I'm gonna skip that. But it who knew if they could have saved or found this much money, they should have been did it. And I'll be talking about that in another slide. So IRS tax enforcements, I told you, they're talking about putting money in the systems, and they're going into detail. Like when they was talking about all that detail, I was just scanning through. But there's Because the sister at first was like a little bit scared, but then I said, why am I scared? I pay my taxes. I'm good. And the carried interest loophole, right? So with those things, they're going to be raising about 739 billion. Then they're going to be spending 433 billion. And the 400, so not only does this Build Back Better plan a good thing, it also pays for itself. And we could talk about Manchin and how much he drives me crazy. But the fact is we got something and we need to go with something. We need them to go ahead and vote and finish this thing out. Okay, so total investments, energy security and climate change. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about what that is in the next slide. But that's $369 billion, energy security, climate change. It's hot here. The temperatures are rising all over our planet. So you cannot be a climate change denier. This is happening. Our whole planet is warming up, and it's because of what we're doing to it, right? And I'm going to talk about that in a second. And the Affordable Care Act extension. So me and my husband, I retired, so I'm no longer with corporate America. I do not get like a direct paycheck from a company. So we have to pay for our own tax, our own health care. And thank God for Obamacare, also called the Affordable Care Act. And so there was something in there that is now extending it so that I and people like me can get it for less money. Okay. So bottom line, you raise 700 million plus, you spend 400 million, you're going to reduce the deficit by $300 billion, right? And the deficit is out there, but that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I mean, it just makes me mad that it all came down to what Manchin wanted to do, because remember, the Democrats had a much bigger plan that would have helped poor communities like our community, like the community that I lived in. But that's okay. We'll take this. We will take this because there's so much more. So let me just keep going. You guys have any questions, or if I'm going too fast, or it's like, Miko, why are you sharing this with me? Let me know. The second piece of the plan. So remember, it was 3 components, right? Economic. Second one is healthcare. So healthcare, there's 2 things. And I'm hoping, I'm talking to some folks that could possibly help us down here in Marion County to get more people signed up for ACA, aka Obamacare. ACA is the Affordable Care Act. That's the name of the bill. But, I call it Obamacare, and it's the same thing. And what they've done is that there was a there's a subsidy that was out there that would, and a subsidy is like a discount, let me call it that reduce the amount of money those of us that are on ACA have to pay. So there was a period last year that my husband and I, we didn't pay anything for our healthcare premium. And now for me and my husband, we're paying like $100 a month for our healthcare. And so what they've done is they have extended that subsidy to 2025. Truly affordable healthcare for American citizens. Now there is a gap. And so I've been talking to some folks that are doing work on the ground that understand that some people cannot get access. But if you can get access to, if you do not have insurance and you can get access to American, the ACA or Obamacare, you need to have it. You need to have it. You can't afford not to have it. And these folks that I'm talking to, hopefully they'll be coming to some of our events to sign people up. Well, that'd be pretty cool when it's time for open enrollment. And I think that's in October, but more to come on that. So on healthcare, this bill says, all right, we're going to continue to make the ACA more affordable to people, seeing that, we don't want to fix it because it's just a little broke. It needs to be fixed. And then the second thing, and they have pages and pages and pages and pages and pages. I want to say 1/3 of the bill was on the prescription drug cost reduction. And so all that they was saying, they were talking about being able to negotiate, who they could negotiate with, drug manufacturers, blah, 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 blah. All it means to you and me is that our prescription drug prices should be going down next year. So stay tuned for this. If you're paying for your prescription drugs and it's a little bit more, like certain drugs cost more than others, and you see those drug costs go down next year, you know that that's going down because it's not by chance, just like gas prices, right? We have elected officials that are in place at the federal level that are working for the people, right? So when your drug prices come down, remember it was this Inflation Reduction Act. The third piece is climate. Now, at Juneteenth, we actually gave away these reusable grocery bags, and this is my nonprofit work that I do. And then also the nonprofit, we have people that come. We have community food share on Fridays, and we give them brown paper bags. And so, I try to be very deliberate, and I also try to, for the outreach of things that I have the ability to influence, to be very deliberate to say we've got to stop using plastics. We have to stop. Um, we have to stop hurting our planet. Me personally, I really, really would love to have a new car. I can't afford one, but I'm telling myself that I am not going to buy a new car until the wheels fall off the one that I'm driving, unless I get an electric car. Why are we going to continue to hurt Mother Earth? To me, it doesn't make any sense. We know that these emissions are causing problems in our environment and our climate, but yet still, because the politicians are in the pockets of the gas companies, we allow it to happen. Just like we got into this mess with gun control. It wasn't because people love, love, love guns. People had guns. The proliferation of guns that are out there is because the politicians have allowed the NRA to buy them out. And the same thing is happening with these emissions and gas and coal and all that stuff. We know it doesn't make any sense to do things the way we're doing it. So this bill will start to address some of that. And actually, they have some years in here, like by the year 2030, this can happen, that'll happen. And I don't know how they can say those things, but we could start, right? And so I'm telling you, me personally, if you see me walking out of Piggly Wiggly, or you see me walking out of Dollar General and I'm just like carrying my groceries in my hand, it's because I forgot to bring my bag out the car. So I do whatever I can to limit, me personally, using as much plastics as we can. Now, I drink these like crazy. Do what we could do, right? I should be using reusable bottles instead of this, because no matter what plastic that we use, and I'm a style, it's just my thing. But no matter what, and this has nothing to do with the bill, by the way. But no matter what plastic we use, it never leaves this earth. So look around you right now. Whatever you have that's plastic, whatever you have, it's never going anywhere. Never. My grandkids will still be here, and so will this water bottle. Well, that's crazy, right? So anyway, so they're talking about a couple things on climate. Geothermal, solar, wind subsidies, right? So here's the thing: though to do this type of big change, it costs a lot of money. So our government is saying, let's go ahead and invest in the power of the future. So cool, right? Go ahead and invest in the power of the future. So they're going to invest in solar. They're going to invest in geothermal. They're going to provide subsidies. And if we go solar, and I actually got a use case. My parents in New Jersey they've had solar panels on their house since 2013, when it wasn't a thing. They kind of had it. And then I got some information from my dad. But here's the deal. By using taxpayer dollars to invest in the power, the energy grid of the future, that's going to create jobs, high paying jobs, not mediocre jobs. So that also will build the economy, right? Our kids, they're going to have opportunities to do different things. High tech. So cool. So let me give you a breakdown of what my dad told me it looked like. So in 2013, they put solar panels on their house. And so they didn't pay anything for the solar panels to go on. They created, what they did was they did like a lease of the solar panels. And so then I was asking him, I said, okay, Dad, so you lease this. I said, well, how much do you pay a month for power? And he says, and he pays a $99 a month lease for the solar panels. And this was based on 2013. And we're in 2022. Things are, I bet you they're going to be a lot different, but this is what he did. And in before he had the solar panels in the winter, his electric bill was about $300, sometimes more, but let's just say an average of $300. And after after he got the solar panels on, his electric bill went down to $100. And it was explained to me something about like how much power he can produce from the solar panels. In the summer, when it's bright and sunny, he said he pays $0 in electric bill. And this is in New Jersey, where it's usually gray. I ain't gonna lie. Where I grew up, we didn't have these bright, beautiful sunny days that are down here in South Carolina. But even still in New Jersey, he pays $0. And then at the end of the year, he gets a rebate. And the rebate is because he's producing energy from his solar panels that are being used to power his home. His home is just like ours. There's no fancy, he plug stuff in, turn switches on. That's it, right? But he produces this energy. And then at the end of the year, he gets a rebate. He gets a rebate for how much more energy he produced than he used. Now, isn't that cool? So think about your bill. How much you pay a month? How nice would it be to get a $0 electric bill, have some pretty cool solar panels on your home? Or why not have these apartment complexes put solar panels on apartment complexes? And then the rebates could go back to the apartment complexes, and the people who live in apartments will have to pay no money in electric. So the cool thing is that all of that is in the bill, right? They talk about it a lot, and it's very detailed and technical for me, but I just love the fact that I saw it. And so the purpose of this Mondays with Miko is, what does it mean to us? To me, it means the power of the future and lower electric bills. And the second thing was in the climate side, and there's some other stuff, but these are the two pieces that dropped out at me, was the electric vehicle credit. Why? Oh, I wanted to show you guys the electric vehicle I rode in. I didn't have a chance to pull that. But maybe I'll repost it on my page. When we were in Atlanta, my dream is I want an electric vehicle, but I would love to have a Cadillac SUV like I have now. Probably, I don't know if I'll be able to do it, but still, that's just what I wanted. Until my husband and I, we were in Atlanta and we got in an Uber, and the Uber was a Tesla. It was so awesome. This thing, the only thing on the dashboard is a huge iPad, right? And the cool thing, and he was showing me like all the settings and all of that. And the cool thing about the way, and he showed us how the car went to self-drive mode. And he has this thing up an iPad, and the Tesla knows where all the cars are on the street. And so, like, if there's a car like kind of cockeyed, you can see that, right? So if you're in self-driving mode, this car is super, super, super smart. It felt like it was glass. I don't know what it was, but all the way from front to back, it felt like a space car. It was so cool. It was so quiet. It was so smooth. He said that, he debunked the myth that the things were slow. He went from 0 to like 60 and like, ching, it was crazy. But it wasn't jarring. It was just a really, really comfortable ride. He talked about how, so you see all of these, and you're going to see more part of this plan, these charging stations, right? So you can charge your car gets a full charge. It goes 500 miles on a full charge. So from South Carolina to just about to New Jersey, right? But the car itself has plots, like you put in where you're going, and it plots all different places that you need to stop to get a charge. And so there's a charging station over in Florence, as an example, and I see people with their Teslas, and I stop and talk to them periodically when I'm there shopping. And this guy told us, he said when he could plug into his house and he can get a charge, and I think it takes hours. But when he goes to the charging stations, he says he can get a full charge. Don't quote me, but I think he said 15 minutes. You got to pay for it. He paid $6.47. I'll never forget, $6.47. When have you been able to fill up your tank for $6.47? And you fill up your tank and it's causing problems in our environment. His car, electric car, was not. And so I'm really stoked, excited about that. So, I thought it was cool to see this in the bill. But it's a couple things. We got devils in the details. It did a lot of talking about what is an electric vehicle, and what if you did it on hold, somebody sold it to somebody, resale, and all this other stuff. So it's interesting to see. I couldn't exactly get the number, but it looks like maybe it's $4,000 credit. And they talked about an advance payment credit to registered dealers, which would be cool instead of a tax credit. So with a tax credit, you basically buy the car and then you write it off on your taxes. But you got to come up with the money to put, the $4,000. But if you get the advance payment to dealers, then they can get it. And I think that was pretty cool. So that was in there. And then it also talked about commercial vehicles. So think big, when we got to change business owners. I'm talking to business owners, and I'm talking to myself, right? A lot of times we limit our capabilities based on what we know, what we are currently capable of doing, what our current access to financing and funding is. We need to change that mindset, right? We need to think big. Like for me, I'm thinking about for the foundation, man, we should be looking at getting commercial refrigerated electric vehicles for the foundation so that we can deliver food for the community. And so you just got to think that way. You got to write it down. You got to create your business plan. And then when people like Les Eccles says, hey, come to this this meet and greet with funders, you have your business plan ready to go. Okay. So we just all really need to think big because this is coming. This is really coming. Okay. So are we ready? South Carolina, are we ready? Do we have the right people at the table that are going to share this information with all of us? Do you believe and trust that your elected official has your best business at heart? That they're going to help us get access to these things? Do we believe that our elected officials are going to be negotiating to get the solar panels in our communities where we have acres and acres of land so that we can have those high-paying jobs? Do we have the right people in place? So I know when I came to South Carolina and started talking to people, we elect people based on who we know, who we're friends with. But that's what keeps us oppressed. That's what keeps us down. That's what keeps 1 in 4 of us in Marion County living in poverty. We need to get active, right? We need to get prepared to vote in 99 days. Make sure we know who these people are running and where they stand on these issues. And I think that new Inflation Act of 2022 is an example. Got to give it up to Biden and the Democrats, man, because I was so done with Manchin, I would have just threw him out the window. But they didn't. They kept negotiating. They kept battling because they were working for the people. Okay, it's really, really important. So some of you may be watching the news and you're hearing that the Republicans are all up in arms, right? They're like pissed off. How are you going to work this deal out? It's going to make Biden look good, And so they're mad, right? And so what they turned around and did, so there was a bill when this deal was announced. There was a bill that was supposed to really just been rubber stamped, and it was a burn pit bill. And the burn pit bill basically was for vets. And my husband, he was in the military, so he was explaining to me, and it's kind of similar to what we do in South Carolina, where if I live in the country and we burn our trash. He says kind of similar to that, but it's a lot bigger. And so these people, their job was to burn stuff. And in burning stuff, there was chemical emissions that caused cancer. And these poor vets are dying. They're dying at a rip of lung cancer, right? And so this bill was supposed to give them access to the health care that they needed, help our poor vets. Well, the Republicans got so mad that Schumer and Manchin inked out this deal to create this the Inflation Reduction Act that I just took you guys through. That they said they stalled. They made it. They did not pass the Burn Pit Act. So here's my thing. Why are we electing people, continue to elect people, aka Tim Scott, who will sacrifice vets for political gain? That is beyond crazy. Okay. So if you're wondering how the burn pit thing correlates with the Inflation Act, it don't. They just playing politics with our lives. And it's about time that we stood up and said we're not going to have it anymore. And that's basically what's happening. Is people are now saying this is ridiculous. Let's call them out on the BS. Couple other things before I close out. I definitely wanted to, living in a flood zone, want to definitely ask everybody, if you're not following, Kentucky has hit yet another major disaster, flooding. People are displaced and maybe hundreds are killed. They don't know for sure. So just know that there's Americans right now that are hurting and they need you. They need your prayers. So please, please pray for Kentucky. We know what it's like, Marion County. We know what it's like for people to be displaced, and they've got schools where people live in. They had to evacuate nursing homes. Families have taken in families, but we never had that kind of devastation and death that they're having in Kentucky. But that doesn't mean it can't come here. I was in a meeting, was it this year? Maybe times are flying. Maybe this year with some folks that are responsible for disaster recovery. And basically what they said, I think it was last year, what they said was that superstorm, when they look at the times, the climate change, right? The earth warming up, and they said to us that were in the room, it's not a matter of if another storm will hit Marion County like Hurricane Matthew, but when. But when. So, when I'm going so hard into pain and, going to these meetings and staying on these elected officials, it begging for my ditches to be cleaned in the backyard, it's because these things matter. They matter in the bigger grand scheme of things, okay? So pray for Kentucky. And then a thing I'm going to end on today is back to school day in Marion County. Our schools are moving towards like a full year calendar. So our kiddies went back on August 1st and they look so cute and adorable. And it really just made me, I'm looking at all their pictures and I'm like, wow, we owe them much more than what we're giving them adults, speaking to the adults. Our school board. So if you look at other school board meetings online, I've been looking at Horry County a lot. There's school board meetings, people show up. At our school board meetings, nobody shows up. Our school board only meets once a month, and they canceled the month in July. Our school board has a weird way of not allowing people to speak. You got to request it. It's very intimidating. So I want to work with some folks. I'm gonna just stand up and say, I'm gonna get on the agenda so that I can say we shouldn't have to get on the agenda to speak about our kids when you only meet once a month and you have at will the ability to cancel a meeting. The meetings used to be at 6:00, which would be more conducive to work and families, right? Because you're probably off work by 6:00. They rolled back that meeting to 5:30. There's nothing saying that they couldn't roll it back to 3:30 or whatever time they wanted to do it, because we are not involved. And I'm saying we because if that meeting is not packed out, then we're not involved. And when you're looking at your Facebook page today and you see all those beautiful faces, all those cute kids in their clothes and their new book bags, say to yourself, are you doing what's best for that generation? All it takes, y'all. I've been to these meetings. You just gotta sit. You just sit. One, your presence tells them something. Two, you learn stuff just by osmosis, and what you learn will blow your mind. Please, I am begging you all, let's get involved. Let's go to these meetings. If you want to be alerted as when these meetings will be, please text the word change to my number, which is 843-517-7100. That's 843-517-7100. Text the word change, and I will text you and tell you when those meetings are, what time the meetings are, and where the meetings are going to be located. That I will do, and that is a promise. I've been doing it since I ran for office, and for those that are signed up already, and I'm not going to stop. But our children need us, okay? So with that, I wish you all an amazing week, and I will see you next week for another episode of Mondays with Miko. Bye, guys.